CASA, the Chartered Accountant of South Africa. CFOs and CEOs of companies of all shapes and sizes, listed and private, big and small, often don the coveted 4 letters. So CAs are at the helm of value in business and even in the world at large. But what is a CASA, and why should you consider becoming one? Today, we are joined by Muhammed Ismail Bulbulia, CASA, founder and editor of myCAhub, and one who was the youngest top 35 under 35 finalist in 2022. We demystify this thing called Chartered Accountancy, what it is, what it means to be a CASA, and why it is such a coveted designation, not just in South Africa, but all throughout the globe. We also chat about the curses of early academic excellence, lessons from his brief stint in journalism, his values-based approach to work and life, why knowledge is only a part of power, and more. This one, guys, is one of my favorites. It's absolutely incredible and so foundational, I believe. And I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA. Guys, myCAhub, Muhammad's company, they have, and I tell no lies, the most fire merch in finance. Hands down. You can fight me. I swear it's so cool, the designs that they have. Like my favorite merch is, and I was wearing it the other day when I was speaking at an African woman chartered accountants event. It said working my assets off, and there's this picture of this guy lifting weights on his laptop, on his computer, obviously, doing those VLOOKUPs on the spreadsheets, stuff we're going to be dealing with in articles. And it's just such a fun way to express your accounting background and your journey. So please check out the merch in the show notes. It's linked there. So many incredible designs. But I hope you enjoy this episode. It's going to be so fire. Like, this was one of my favorites, honestly, to edit and to be a part of, to create. And onto the show. Welcome back, my people. This is the Road to CA podcast, the show for aspiring chartered accountants to inspire, empower, and inform the difference makers of tomorrow. Okay, this is take 2, guys. So I apologize for my incompetence, but it does not take at all away from the brilliance of the man before us today. We're joined by a superman of sorts, people. A man of many skills and talents. And it seems like, the reason why I say this, there's many people running the business that he started. But it's a one-man show. He's the founder and editor of myCAhub, a proudly South African one-man startup creating software solutions for CAs. And he's on a mission to make myCAhub the coolest place for CAs to be. He's also one of the youngest CAs on the top 35 under 35 list, having been a finalist in 2022. Most importantly, he likes street art and graffiti. And I don't know if he still does, but he said he trains Muay Thai in his spare time when he's got a moment here and there. He's the man behind the hottest merch in finance. And in my opinion, he's the epitome of the art of business. We're joined by Muhammed Ismail Bulbulia. Muhammed, how are you, brother?
I'm great, Alunga. Wow. Dude, thank you. What an introduction.
Dude,
I should get you to do all my introductions, bro. That was incredible, bro.
Thanks, bro.
That was even better than the last time.
but it was you, dude. It was.
Hey.
Look, I'm more skilled because it's been like what? How long? Like months, bro.
Exactly, and that's why I'm so happy to be back here. And I don't mind doing it because I knew that whilst I had such a good time the last time, and we had a great chat, it was probably going to be better this time because we've both developed, and a lot has happened in my CAhub and my life over the last couple of months, and also having seen you put out tremendous content, and also having grown your podcast, which the Road to CA, you only started it last year, right? In 2024.
Like about 12 months ago.
Bro, congratulations. Happy birthday. And
yeah, bro.
What an incredible achievement, bro, for someone still in varsity to have put together and executed, on something that many people talk about. Everyone wants to start a podcast these days, bro.
Yeah.
But I think you've niched down quite well, bro.
Thanks,
and
bro.
Your production quality is good.
Thanks, bro.
99%. I'm joking because with our episode, but that's why because we live and learn, bro. I think this one's gonna be even better. So well done, man. That's really cool, and I'm so happy to be here. Super excited,
dude. It's gonna be insane because we've also done basically a dry run. So this one's gonna be insane, dude.
We're always talking, bro. We're always having the thickest chats.
Our chats are so crazy, but let's go back.
Sure.
For all of those aspiring CAs out there, let's go and rewind to where CA began for you.
100%. So it's really funny you say that. 2025 is 10 years since I was in third year varsity, right? Okay, so before we get to third year, let me actually sure. So I started off, I matriculated from St. John's College here in Johannesburg, private school. I enjoyed St. John's. I had a great time. I was also Dux. That was like the peak of my academic achievement and something that I wanted, I worked towards, wanted to be Dux scholar. But then like almost every other 18-year-old or 17-year-old, I don't know what I wanted to do with my life. What I really enjoyed at school was English. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed reading literature. That was my favorite subject, although I was pretty good at all of the subjects.
Yeah, I mean ducks, man.
which was pretty tricky, and it's funny because I was reading some other just some interesting stuff speaking about how, and I'm putting it in inverted commas here, gifted kids, right? Or people who are said to be gifted, during school, actually don't perform well later in life.
Stereotypically.
Stereotypically. Or can be caught up, because of some cons of being praised, for academic excellence whilst you're, still developing. And that academic excellence is not a predicate or necessary precursor to success in the real world and in real life.
Yes.
Not at all. In fact, they may, look, I don't know about the studies, but they may not even be correlated at all.
Sure.
It may actually, in fact, I know this from my own experience, that people who are experts or people who tend to be experts in a subject tend to not be willing to look past their expertise.
The area of
or be willing to be open to new ideas because that's what they know, and their authority is based on that body of expertise, that foundation. So challenging that foundation, even if there are holes, means that you're kind of challenging their authority and their whole history, of having established themselves within that. Part of their identity, perhaps. It's a tricky one.
Sometimes it's the large part, which is a very dangerous thing. Like from a philosophical perspective, but carry on.
That's just it, So I don't want to be tied to my identity as anything. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And from my experience, so with doing well in school, I don't know what I wanted to do. And then I kind of wanted to do journalism. And my parents are like, are you going to eat words? What are you going to do? Which was, in retrospect, I very much appreciate that. That was a very astute observation.
Yeah.
Because it's tough
It's
for journalists, and I don't think I don't actually wanted to be a journalist.
Yeah.
I actually did give journalism a go.
You did
in
2
third
months
year.
at the Daily Vox?
Yeah, you're right. The Daily
Yeah,
Vox,
yeah.
which was like a up and coming and like you know, media out. And honestly, it was only for 1 month, but I gave it a shot and this was 10 years ago in 2015 in my third year, where I went out and I was writing on stories, and you had like deadlines every day, and not only that, I didn't really get to choose what I wanted to write about, especially as an entry level.
Yes.
It's like the same if you're doing articles. You don't choose what the clients you're on. So you didn't choose the stories you get to cover, really. I didn't enjoy any of that. So it was a great experience to actually go and try it out and be like, nah. But that's skipping the gun, because like I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My parents were like, go and try, the point of the CA, which I think is fairly well shared by many others, is the financial security. That the designation is thought to bring. Well, thought to bring,
Yes,
thought to bring. And does bring. It is true. And the opportunities that it brings with it as well. For example, the international applicability of your experience and of your knowledge, and the multidiscipline approach. So, for example, you could work in an accounting firm doing doing taxes for individuals or for corporations, or you could be a financial manager, or you could be a controller, or FD, or CFO, or you could actually move out of accounting entirely and go do software or marketing. Or there's people doing crazy things, bro. CA is doing not crazy things. You've interviewed many of them, So you're not limited. But I didn't realize that, or many people don't see past the scope of that. The base of it is the I guess from a practical perspective,
financial security
is, that's a big part of it, And so I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I was like, okay. So I went into accounting at Wits, and you can skim through. So, a big part of my experience at Wits and my university experience was caring about others' perceptions of accounting and me as an accountant or studying accounting, And I used to care that people would say, or people did say that, oh, it's boring. And I got very into like campus politics and the other side, of at Wits, there's East Campus and West Campus. West Campus is where business and law and accounting is, and East Campus is where
the humanities.
Exactly. Humanities and like I think there's like the theater, all the drugs. No, I'm joking. So I was always on East Campus, and you can get through it on first year. First year, like okay, second year, I just scraped through. Third year, you can't muck around, bro. Like and that was 2015, was 10 years ago, my first third year 2.0. And the biggest part, like I said, was I didn't give it much of an effort because of that association with the identity, of accounting. And
accountants are boring.
100%.
Especially when you go to the east side. They're all saying, Muhammad, you're a boring accountant. Or they say, you don't look like an accountant.
That was exactly it, That was exactly it. But I'd like to see where a lot of those people are.
That's the thing.
I'm just being honest. 10 years later, if you're looking back, like, I wouldn't give this up for anything. But anyway, you can't see it at the time, And I was very involved with campus politics and like fees must fall. And then my parents were like, are you going to eat votes? Like, what's going on? And then I failed third year. And then I failed all 4 subjects in third year.
That was the same for me. Third year was the all 4.
My guy. Bro, we were bonding before we even met.
Dude, like top student, same deal, but not ducks, of course, but like, like 7 A's. But there's just so much more than past accolade. I'm finding there's a real experience of everything that you do. And I feel like that's part of why your quote unquote average student, the one that was getting 60s or 70s, tends to perform better because they understand the experience of just applying effort. Like they understand it more than you or I, because ours was driven by the accolade, not the effort.
100%. I think that's a really interesting and good point, bro. Because then, like in third year 2.0, when I gave it an actual shot, and actually, firstly, I really enjoyed accounting, but I also had to learn like how to study, like auditing. Yo, I hated auditing,
tough
bro.
to get your
And the thing is, you can rely on like, I guess, some base of natural talent or intelligence for like school. Like I said, first year. Like I said, I scraped through second year.
Dude, it's like you're speaking like about my story, like.
But when things get honest, and like, you're 100% right, like the people, that's why, people who, I think it may point to, because I think I experienced that for myself, where people who were said to be like gifted or whatever in school, like the downside of that is you may place a lot of pride or emphasis on those talents, or and then you maybe don't want to even challenge yourself and face the fact, so you even give up. Like I think the worst thing I could have done would have been to walk away after third year and say, no,
it's not for me.
Exactly. I leave. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I want to maybe face the risk of failing again, and I just give up. That would have been dumb. That would have been probably the worst thing, I think, looking back and looking where I am today. So I'm very glad that at the time, and I'm lucky to have had the support, of my parents, to have been like, what are you doing? Like, to have just been like, what is your plan?
Yeah.
What is your plan? What are you doing? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then to have given it a shot, and then to have passed third year, and then, once you get into the groove, then CTA, wasn't even so bad compared for me to third year, because like I said, I ended up like tutoring Manfin in my, I think it was in my fourth year.
Wow.
Which is crazy. If you had told me that I would be tutoring accounting when I started at Wits, I wouldn't have believed you. And you have even told a guy who was tutoring accounting that you have a company called myCAhub. Your users are only like our PsyCAhub members and CAs. I would have been like, what are you smoking? I would have, and that just goes to show you should never preempt what you think, where you think your life is going to go, or shut yourself off to opportunities.
Especially at this stage. I think there is a stage where, in fact, we'll pivot into this, but there is a stage where you know yourself, or you know what you value, rather, enough to say, that's not for me. That's not for me. That's not for me. That's not for me. Now there's a few options left, right? Now you've narrowed it down, and I think within that range, you can't preempt. But as you experience life, the range gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And this actually gets into this idea that you chatted about around a values-based life approach, which you've definitely exhibited, right? And in fact, before we even get there, I actually wanted to just zoom. I just wanted to rewind back to, okay, what if, say I'm a high school student, right? There's a high school student listening to this right now, and they're sitting right here, and they're like kind of considering accounting. Maybe they're grade 9 or even grade 10, 11, and they're like, I don't know about this accounting thing. Like, I want to actually just define, like, what is it to be a CA? You've mentioned a lot of the benefits. You can go overseas because it's in demand internationally. There's a lot of perceived financial security in the designation. There's a lot of demand for auditors, for an example. Yeah. Like literally everywhere around the world. And it's very versatile, so many different fields. What is a CA from the guy who started myCAhub?
What is a CA? Do you mean like what do you mean exactly? What is the...
So like I'm a high school student and now I've clicked on this podcast and I'm like, I don't know what's the CA thing? It's called the Road to CA. I've heard people say like Chartered Accountant and like, what does it mean to be a CA? And like why should I choose it? I remember when you mentioned some advice to your 10-year-old self in the Psycho 20 top 35 out of 35. One interview in 2022, you said, try accounting, you'll never know where it'll end, it'll get you, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's crazy.
So like what is it, and like why should one choose it?
Okay. So being a chartered accountant, the first reason is it sounds great, right?
And I actually love that you said that.
Yeah.
Brand.
Yeah, it has a strong brand. So people will respond to when people ask you, what do you do? And you say, I'm a CA. Even though you don't know what a CA is now, other people will know, right? Secondly, one of the it's not, another important point is it's not any one single thing. So if someone asks, what is a doctor? You'll say a doctor is someone who helps you when you're sick, right? But what is a chartered accountant? A chartered accountant can help you with many different things. Part of their training, right, and experience to becoming a CA will help you develop skills around building a business, understanding the finances of a business, understanding money, understanding taxes, understanding personal taxes, perhaps some element of personal financial security, personal financial literacy. Part of your training and part of your and part of becoming a CA will also train you in professional skepticisms, questioning. That's part of auditing, developing a thinking mindset and problem solving when it comes to how could people commit fraud, how could people steal from a business, and how to develop a business, in an internal sense, so on a micro scale, as well as a macro scale, the bigger sense, expanding with strategy. So basically anything to do with business. If I'm thinking about it, and if I said like a doctor is someone who helps you when you're sick, a chartered
with bad handwriting.
Definitely. A chartered accountant is someone who can help you when it comes to business, right? Someone who can help you with pretty much when it comes now. You wouldn't go to a tooth doctor, an orthodontist, if you have a problem with your toe, right? So doctors can specialize, so can chartered accountants, right? Being a chartered accountant is the first step into the world of understanding business, understanding finances. That's kind of how I would put it to a high school student. And once you enter that world, you can then choose to specialize further in any number of steps, in anything. And that's what if we just go back to what you were talking about and what we were saying, because I spoke to my sister about this recently, where it was, saying no to things, expanding and then saying no. So I think there's different phases in your life, right? And that you go through in different contexts. And like, for example, with myself, once I at the end of third year and fourth year, once I decided, okay, now I'm in accounting, and then I went to Deloitte, I did my articles at Deloitte in Johannesburg in auditing financial service industry clients. And if I think back on it, at that point, like, I was done with varsity, right? I was in a new environment. It was my first time. Actually, I'd worked at Exclusive Books while I was at varsity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And the Daily Vox, no?
Yeah, the Daily Vox was a 1 month thing. But Exclusive Books I worked for properly. Like, I got my tax number there, and I got a salary. Yeah.
Sure.
And because I really, like I said, I loved books, bro.
Yeah.
So I still love books, but I read a lot more. I'll be honest, I read a lot more on my phone.
Like newsletters.
Yeah,
articles.
even ebooks and stuff on my phone. Yeah. Sometimes I still like going back to Exclusive Books, to actually page the books. But honestly, like, technology is awesome. Like, dude. I use like my phone for like everything, bro. I don't mind saying, like, I enjoy using my phone. So with that, when I was just starting off articles, like the way I also viewed it was like a period of growth and openness. So I was open to many new experiences and meeting many new different people and trying new things out and learning more about myself. And then at the end of articles, that's when I had, developed this values-based approach that you had mentioned. And I actually knew a lot more about myself. And, with that values-based approach, the whole point is like looking back and reflecting on your own experiences in your life to see where you felt, for example, trapped, where you felt free, where you felt happy, where you felt sad, where you felt elated, where you felt excited, and reflect on those experiences. What was it about it? Like, what triggered it? What from your childhood, led to those? And from those, you can extract a couple of key core values. Like, for example, my primary value is freedom. Secondly, independence. Another pretty high one, creativity. But freedom and independence are the most important ones. And reflecting back on that, once I was at the end of articles, because I had some indication of, of who I was, then I could laser down, on that. And I wasn't still like, in a period of, okay, let me experience everything. Then I could laser that to achieve some of my goals. So one of my goals was I wanted to develop like a financial income where I could, which reflected me living out my values every day. So where I was free to make decisions and I didn't have to answer to a boss, and where I was independent, so again, I didn't have to answer to anyone to run decisions by them or make decisions. The price of that, obviously, I didn't have a salary for like 3 years. I was living on my savings while I was building my business.
Sure.
But that helped me once I had experienced the period of growth and defined my values. Then I lasered down on a period of like work. Work is not like focus. Focus is a better one. Focused work. Then once I had achieved those goals, or once you get to those goals, then you can enter another period, what I'm saying, of growth and saying, okay, now I've got this. Now I've done what we set out to do and so on. Now I want to grow even more. So then once again, you start saying yes to different things, experiencing new things, learning more about yourself in different contexts. And then once you've gone through that period, then you say, okay, this is a new set of goals that I want to achieve based on things I didn't even know about myself that I learned from this new period of growth. You try things maybe in a new country, new things, new hobbies, new relationship, and find out new things about yourself. And you're like, okay, based on these new things I learned about myself, these are my new goals. And then you focus on that. So I think that's a pretty interesting way of viewing things. I was speaking to my sister about it, and pretty true, I think, in my own experience. And it also shows the duality of, not prescribing one approach to your life. So saying, you must always be growing or always be focused. There's a healthy balance. There's a healthy context for both.
You know what I love about that? The values-based approach that you've adopted. And you said it. It's modular. You apply it here in this life, and you can apply it again in the other life. The basic premise is, what are your values? And how do you want to live in accordance with those values? We also chatted earlier about authenticity as well, which links to it, that when you live inauthentically, i.e., against your nature, against your values, it's just really tough. It's exhausting. You have to spend all this energy thinking about, oh, what was I saying to this person? There's also that quote or that line of, it's when you lie, you have to have a really good memory. It's the same. When you live inauthentically, you have to have a really good memory. You have to tiptoe about, and a values-based approach. It's basically leaning into your authenticity. I wanted to also, this is a lovely little format of taking some of the creations, because you're actually such an incredible writer. I've found, like, it's funny, like people probably see you as the like the myCAhub guy, but you are such an incredible writer. And I've actually scraped some of your writings from the internet, and I'm gonna say the line, and we riff off of it.
Okay.
We elaborate. I say it, you elaborate. The first one is this one was pretty profound. Knowledge is part of power.
Did I say that?
You said that, bro.
No, from where, bro?
You said that in your article. I think it was titled "Why Accounting is Actually the Dopest Profession."
Oh, from the blog. Oh,
bro,
okay.
but like even just that little line, I was like, you know how they usually say knowledge is power, right?
Sure.
It's part of power.
Okay. If I think okay,
That was you.
No. You know what? I don't know if I said that or if I was playing off on something, but I can definitely talk about it. The reason being, right? Because I like talking about power, and for me, to talk about anything, you have to define it. And to me, power can be defined as the ability to actualize your will, right? So it's the ability to bring what you want into reality, right? If you are, for example, like a beggar, then you don't have much power because you don't have the ability to bring much into reality compared to, for example, a president, or a billionaire. We say, like, why do we say that the president of the United States is the most powerful man in the world? To me, the understanding really, if we think about it, is because the American military might and also economic force, right, basically falls behind the US president. He's a figurehead of that. And so if he wanted to, he could basically do pretty much anything he wants. And
I mean, look at your boy.
Exactly. And that's, I think it's been lived out in real time,
Donald J. Trump, he's amazing. He's fantastic. Absolutely incredible. Those racists down and said, carry on, bro.
Exactly. Like the declarations of the tariffs.
Sure.
I think in his last term, he assassinated that Iranian guy, Qasem Soleimani. Like it was, and the thing is, there's no real retaliation. You can't. So that's why it's not like the Iranians can assassinate Donald Trump, even though they may want to. They're not that. They're just not that powerful. So power is the ability to actualize your will. When we say knowledge is part of power, the thing is, you may have the ability, right? But you don't have knowledge, or you don't have a good understanding, a good theoretical, not theory, it doesn't even have to be theory, it just has to be information. You don't have enough information to truly actualize your will, right? You'll never have all the information available, right? But if you can make a decent decision, if you can make a decision that leans towards you achieving your outcome, right? Let's say with 80% of the information or 70% of the possible potential available information, that's excellent. But getting towards that 70 or 80% of the information, that's what I would call, gaining knowledge, gathering knowledge to assist you with being able to actualize, your will, to be getting to bring about the outcomes you'd want. So when I say knowledge is part of power, information is definitely important. You need, in my opinion, definitely a certain amount of information to be able to make a decision, and having more information is useful. However, I've also read, and I've also heard it said, that too much information can lead to analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
So there is a critical threshold. That's why you can never have 100% of the information. And, is 80% compared to 70% really that much better, marginally? Do you know what I'm saying? 70% compared to 40% is a lot better. I'd much rather have said, but if I'm sacrificing a lot of time, energy, what is my opportunity cost to get between 70% to 80%, of possible available information? How much of an impact would that really make on my final decision, if that makes sense? So encapsulating all of that, I think we can put it into knowledge is part of power. It's not all of power. And, you can have all of the knowledge. You can have a lot of knowledge and no power.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of smart people have a lot of knowledge, but they don't have much power to actualize what they really desire or bring it about into reality.
Knowledge is part of the tools for you to actualize. So I think of it like your will, your will might be that you want to have prosperity in your life, right? You want riches, wealth, etc. But like, how do you get rich? That's the knowledge part. Part of it. Okay.
Sure.
There's the knowledge, and then there's the application of the knowledge,
exactly.
which is skill.
Exactly.
Applied knowledge is skill. And even on the knowledge part, it was very interesting. I was even thinking back to, how we failed our third year, and Stephen Bartlett had this interesting idea of that knowledge, that failure is power. Failure is power, and his thinking is that if failure is feedback, so that means you have to reflect on it. That's an important thing. You reflected on those situations. You were conscious. You were aware. But if failure is feedback, and feedback is knowledge, it's information, and knowledge is power, then failure is power.
It's you know what, I have to concur. I have to concur because if you look at, for example, Thomas Edison,
yes,
who went through, I think, over 1,000,
10,000,
some thousands. Yeah, you know what? Exactly.
Yeah.
Iterations of the light bulb before they landed on, I think it was tungsten. It is tungsten. I don't know if they landed it for the filament. And his attitude was one of, I've just found another material that won't work. I haven't failed in my task. I've learned something new. I've learned that this material won't work. And I totally agree. But he didn't do 10,000 experiments using the same material. He learned from his experience. So 100% failure, definitely. And you want to fail fast. You want to fail often. You don't want to fail big. You want to fail small. Make small failures so that you can learn from your mistakes. And there's not huge outcomes or unsized consequences. But definitely, and it is power, because most people are not willing to fail. Most people are not willing to take the risk and take the hits of a failure. They're just too risk averse. The pain, in fact, you'll often notice that the failure itself is not so bad. It's the pain, the mental anguish, and the psychological pain associated with that failure. And I also think the public perception plays into it.
Sure.
How other people will perceive your failure, that it's costly, too costly, sometimes for many people to be willing to undertake that type of risk. In my opinion, sometimes it's considered. Everyone's in a different context.
For sure.
Some people have kids. Some people have cancer.
You said, don't fail big. So consider how big the failure would be if this thing fails.
On the flip side, there's other people who have done it with kids and cancer. There's people. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's really up to you.
And if someone hasn't, right? I love Elon Musk's philosophy. If it's not against the laws of physics, it's a suggestion. Everything else is a suggestion. That if someone hasn't done it, but theoretically it's possible, then your story becomes your sermon. Everyone else who sees that you succeeded despite those odds, they get to reap the benefits of your success.
It's the ones who think they're crazy enough that actually change the world.
Yeah, Steve Jobs, man.
But 99% out of the 100, 99 of the 100 are actually flipping crazy, bro. You gotta be, it's true. We don't see the many dropouts and the many burnouts. But it's true. It's the ones that actually are willing to think outside the box and are not willing to take, structured frameworks or the box as an answer that can to expand the box for everybody. If they're or break through the walls. It just depends. I really think it depends on the person.
Back to the values-driven decision making. I think that's really valuable. Just to look at yourself. Like what is it that you truly value? If one of your like genuine highest values is security and support, maybe this entrepreneurship thing, maybe it's not for you.
I would definitely agree, and that's why when people say that everyone should become an entrepreneur, that's a very broad statement. And that's why the values-based approach, in my experience, is so useful and has so much value.
Yeah.
Because once you've taken the time to identify like I said, by reflecting on your experiences and identifying, and you can also identify, for example, negative values. So things that you distaste, things that you despise, you'll see it come out in yourself. You'll see it come out in others. Things you don't like about other people. You don't like about yourself that you may be projecting onto other people. It all just takes introspection, and reflection and understanding yourself. And once you've done that, again, it just makes decision making for the future so much easier, because all you do is you're like, okay, I understand these things about myself. I understand a lot of who I am. I understand who I am basically at this point. If you do the work, and then you can say, okay, well, here's the options. For example, here a new job prospect comes up. Does this job prospect align with my values? They may be offering a tremendous amount of money, so financial compensation. But for example, if I value time with my family, if I have a lot of if I find a lot of joy in spending time with my family, and everything is limited, everything is scarce, right? So time with your family is also scarce, right? If I say that I value that, right, the financial compensation that's being afforded to me by this new job prospect, or the status compensation, a new position, or they say you can go to like a totally different country. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you can head up this new department and it will be like a whole entrepreneurial venture, within the company. Like, but does that align with what I value? Because I'll be able to, for example, I'll be getting more money, I'll be getting more status, I'll be getting more opportunities to take risks and grow in a career perspective. Is that what I want? If I look at my values, the cost, which will be time with my family. And if you don't want to give that up, and if from your experience, then even though there's a pain of loss associated with giving up that job prospect, in my opinion, it should be easy. It should be easy. It should be completely easy to make
if you've thought about it, that's the thing. You need to do the upfront work, the hard work.
Exactly.
Of like determining your framework, your values.
Exactly. And then once you do that, then for example, and you see, I think, and again, from reading various research and sources, we know that humans expend a huge amount of energy on decision making each day.
Yeah.
We know that your brain consumes, I think, about 20% of the energy that's produced, from the food you consume.
This tiny little brain.
Exactly. It's like, comparatively, it's huge. The energy and the sugar that's going into your brain, it's burning, and you use a huge amount of brain power on decision making. And to make decision making easier, your brain automatically defaults to shortcuts and heuristics on a daily basis. But when it comes to the bigger decisions, rather than sitting and stewing over and mental anguish, like if it's clear cut when it comes to with your values, then make the decision based on your values. That it's going to, in the future, the position you'll be living in accordance with. Can your values change? It's It's possible. But for now, and then when you get there, you deal with that, But for now, you're working, you're in the, this doesn't align. Why would I make a decision? And, I think people do it because of the potential loss, the potential financial loss, or because they don't know their values. They don't know.
I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. I would also agree.
I think that's the main thing, because actually the temptation of the financial loss is, in fact, rather the opportunity cost of the financial loss. It's just temptation. That's all it actually is. Everyone could do with more money.
Yeah, that's true, bro.
Every single person could do with more money, but is money everything? Next quote, man. Yo, knowledge is power. That was hectic. This one's a little bit long-winded, but I think I had to include every word.
Sure.
To be continued in part 2. See you next week.